Welcome back. This is the 63rd and final segment in this series that we've been doing, Because It's True. Making the case for Christianity in bite-sized pieces. The task, the responsibility, the privilege of engaging others, non-Christians, Christians, but especially non-Christians, engaging them intellectually concerning the confidence that we can have in the trustworthiness and reliability and the beneficial applicability of all that the Bible teaches is, if you will, a commission which is given to every Christian. 1 Peter 3:15 says, "But sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts, always being ready to make a defense to anyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is within you, yet with gentleness and reverence." Now that applies to every Christian. Some Christians are called to be so equipped and are called to be so engaged in this type of enterprise that they themselves take the initiative to provide the solid arguments for the credibility of the Christian faith. Others are not. But they are still to be ready when someone takes the initiative to approach them with questions. They are still to be ready to respond reasonably and informatively in order to meet the intellectual needs of the person who has approached them. Now, I'm going to suggest that there are at least 7 essential components that we must maintain if we're to take this task, responsibility, and privilege seriously. You may be able to add 70 to my 7, but for sure these 7 are essential. 1, prayer. Acts 6:4, we read where the apostles say, "But we will devote ourselves to prayer and to the ministry of the word." And I'm convinced that the order of those two things, the order is deliberate. We pray first, and we continue to pray as we move out to minister in whatever form or fashion we have the opportunity. Number 2, biblical literacy, growing in our familiarity and knowledge of what the Bible teaches. Are we familiar with that which we are attempting to defend? 2 Timothy 2:15 says, "But study to show yourself approved unto God, a workman who need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth." Number 3, our personal walk. Are we living consistently in light of what we are proclaiming and teaching to be true? In the first chapter of Acts, in the very first verse, Jesus is offered as one who lived and taught. And I'm convinced that those two are in that order on purpose because it is what we live, that authenticates what we teach. Are we living consistently that which we say we believe? Now, no one lives consistently what they say they believe as far as the Christian faith is concerned. But where we can be consistent is to consistently ask for forgiveness of our inconsistencies when they surface. And that in and of itself is a witness to the grace of God in our lives. Number 4, continuing education. In addition to continuing to grow in your literacy of the Bible, are you growing in your knowledge of what the questions are that are out there and what the answers are to the questions? The questions, quite frankly, are not endless. And the questions that come up, they actually are relatively few. And they are questions that have been addressed for generations and are being addressed in fresh ways, not new ways, not new answers, but just fresh packaging of answers in order to meet the questions of the day. Now, are you growing in your knowledge of the resources that are out there? Which brings me to number 5, and that is know your resources. What are the books? What are the podcasts? What are the websites? What are the people in your community that you can go to that can provide you with information, with guidance, with education, counsel? People that you might refer other people to when you think you're in over your head. Which then brings me to the 6th essential, and that is do not be afraid of questions. Do not be afraid of your own questions. Certainly do not be afraid of the questions that people are going to raise. Do not be afraid to say, I don't know, but I will help you find out, and we will find out together. Do not be afraid of questions. And finally, number 7, continue to cultivate and develop a skill of genuine listening to the person that you are communicating with. Listen so that you can actually address their needs. Now, it could very well be that what they need is an answer to a question. But it could also be that what their question is an indication of a deeper need that they have that really needs to be addressed. But you won't know that unless you really listen. Now, let me suggest that with these 7, that I've created something of a set of bookends. Because the first thing I suggested is prayer. And that requires listening. And then the last thing that I suggest is listening to the person. Matthew 22 says we're to love God and love others. And one of the ways that we love God and love others is to listen to Him and then listen to others and then bring those two together.